Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Carolyn, and in this video I'm going to be doing an eyeshadow palette tag, which is super exciting because I love talking about eyeshadow palettes. So if that sounds interesting to you, then just keep on watching. So a few months ago, DW from Deb's Beauty Diary tagged me to do this palette tag, and this was a tag that was created by Lisa Lobotomy. So I will have both of their videos, of the tag videos, linked down below, as well as their channels. So there are 10 questions to answer here, and I will also have those listed in the description box. I'm sorry, my dogs are making a lot of noise. Hopefully you can't hear them that much, but they're being really noisy. But anyway, without further ado, let's just get started. So question number one is the brand you have the most palettes from, and that is ColourPop for me. I have 11 palettes from ColourPop. So yeah, I have 11 palettes from ColourPop, and they are all IP collabs that ColourPop has done. I like to collect their palettes for I only buy the IP palettes from them, and just because I like to collect those and have them for like display and stuff, because I think you can see some of my display palettes, and one of them right there is missing because I'm going to be talking. I have the palettes that I want to talk about in front of me. So anyway, yeah, so I collect the ColourPop collab palettes if I'm interested in the IP. So anyway, yeah, so ColourPop is the brand that I have the most palettes from. The brand you own the least palettes from, with a minimum of 3. So for me, that is BH Cosmetics. I have 5 palettes from them. I have the Brunch series, which is those 3 palettes, the Mimosa, Avocado Toast, and the Blueberry Muffin palettes. And I have 2 of the travel palettes, the Lost in Los Angeles and the Passion in Paris. So yeah, BH is the brand I own. I have a lot of palettes that I just own one from the brand, but yeah, anyway. Question number 3 is the brand that you wish you owned more from. And for me, that is Nomad. I just have 1 palette from them, the Underground Berlin palette, and this was sent to me by Liz from My Mega Garden on YouTube. She was doing some decluttering and she offered to send this to me, which I'm super grateful for. This palette, I love the color story, but it's just mostly satins and shimmers, and there's 1 matte here. But I do love the formula of the shimmers. And anyway, there's just quite a few palettes from Nomad that I want. So yeah, so Nomad. Next question is the brand with the best color story. And I think I'm going to have to say Cosmic Brushes. And I was kind of going back and forth between them and Odin's Eye, because Odin's Eye did their Christmas palettes, and those are gorgeous. But yeah, I didn't get those palettes, but I think I have the Muse palette from Cosmic Brushes, and I also want to get the Serenity palette. But the Muse palette, the color story on this is so pretty, and the shade is coming across really blue on camera, but in person it's purple. But anyway, this is just such a pretty color story, very unique to what I have, and I just think it's such a pretty color story, very versatile, and the undertones are unique. I just see so many looks that I could do with this palette, and it's just very inspiring. So I think that Cosmic Brushes does the best color stories, just with what they've done so far with this one and the Serenity, and I know they did their like Royal Rose one, I think that's what it's called. And someone commented on one of my videos that that was their favorite palette from Cosmic Brushes. So I'm kind of interested in trying that, but I don't know, because I have the Natasha Denona Love palette, which has a lot of pinks, so I don't know. But yeah, definitely for right now, I think the Muse palette from Cosmic Brushes and the Serenity palette, I think so far my favorite color stories from brands. But I think that Odin's Eye does some really great color stories because their Christmas palettes were really pretty. Yeah, anyway, I settled on Cosmic Brushes. And then the next question is the palette you always wanted but never bought. And I have a lot of palettes on my wish list. So this is kind of challenging for me because I have so many palettes on my wish list that I just haven't gotten around to getting. I think I'm going to go with the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. I just haven't gotten it. I don't know if I will get it because a lot of people say it's kind of a repetitive color story and you pretty much only get the same looks with it. So it's just kind of one that I admire from afar. I don't really plan on getting it. Question number 6 is a series of palettes you want and from which brand. And it's funny because at the time that I saw Dub's Beauty Diaries video where she tagged me in this, I knew exactly what my answer would be. And I think it's still the same answer, but it was like a Disney princess series from ColourPop because they did this thing and they did the Disney Masquerade palette, but they have all the Disney characters just like on one palette, but I wanted them to do like individual characters, you know, like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Ariel from Little Mermaid. So I wanted that, but then I have the Snow White palette and the Alice in Wonderland palettes coming out, which I'm definitely going to be getting. So that's already kind of started. So, but that's still like, that was going to be my answer, and I don't really know of another answer to give. That was kind of like the only thing I could think of because they've already started doing their Star Wars. I guess I'll just stick with that. Like, I would love them to just continue on releasing the Disney palettes. And yeah, so the ones I really want to see are the Beauty and the Beast because that one's kind of my favorite one. And Aladdin and Little Mermaid. So yeah, I hope that answer was okay. But yeah, so next question is a palette you want to love but don't. And before today, I was definitely going to say the Chocolate Martini palette. However, today, I'm wearing it today, and I think it actually looks really pretty. I did it differently because normally I set my primer with translucent setting powder or just like face powder, but I didn't do that today. I just went straight in with the eyeshadow and it worked out a lot better. So I think I was just using this wrong. I'm wearing, in case anyone's curious, I'm wearing these two mattes in my crease, this one in the outer corner and this shimmer all over my eyelid, and I really like how it turned out. This matte formula isn't my all-time favorite matte formula, but the shimmers are really good, and I think this look turned out really pretty. So I'm not going to say this one, even though that was going to be my answer. But I wanted to use it today to make sure, and I just kind of like proved myself wrong. So instead, I'm going to go with this one. This is the Hocus Pocus, the ColourPop Hocus Pocus Gather Round Sisters palette. And so many people loved this palette, and I got it when they like re-released it the year before last year, and I just can't get it to work. This palette, so I took out the pressed glitter, and this pan I got from like mixing it with other shadows. So I didn't actually hit pan from use there. But anyway, I think I got like a dud or something because these and I've used this palette a lot, and these dark shades down here are just always turn out like super patchy, super difficult to work with, and I just haven't gotten the hype. And even I just don't have good luck at all with these mattes in this palette, like even these ones up here. I do really like this one though. It's like good. It's good for blending out the brow bone and stuff. So I've kind of got a good dip in here, if you can see that. I don't think you can see, but there is a good dip in here. And the shimmers are fine. I have heard that ColourPop is kind of inconsistent with their palettes from like batch to batch, you know, like they might not press things, like these might be harder pressed than normal, or I don't know. But I just know that this palette, just formula wise, just doesn't usually work for me. I still keep using it though, like every Halloween since I've gotten it. So I guess just the past 2 Halloween seasons. And I'm probably going to use it again this year. But this might be the year I end up retiring it. We'll see. I'm still going to keep it for the packaging. It might just like not really count in my palette count. But yeah, so this is a palette I wanted to love but didn't. And then number 8 is a palette you love but didn't think you would. And for that, I'm gonna say my Melt Mary Jane palette. And this was sent to me by Dub's Beauty Diary because she brought it into a project, and I mentioned like, oh, I'm curious to see how you think about that palette. I've been wanting that palette. And she ended up not liking it, and so she sent it to me. But she was saying, she's like, it's too messy, it creased on her, and it was too dark. And so I was like, oh, I probably won't like it either, but I'll try it. And I ended up loving it. And so it is messy. Like you can see, this is a messy palette. These end shimmers are super crumbly. And this is like not a palette I'd recommend to beginners. And I think Melt in general is not a brand the reason I love Melt is for their mattes, and their because their mattes are like really pigmented and they just go on so well. But I don't think, if I was like a beginner and wanted to have like just a light look, I wouldn't really go for Melt. But I love Melt. They have my favorite mattes, I think. And the first look I did with it was so pretty. Maybe I'll pop up a picture of it because I just loved it. And I just get like, when I use this palette, I just get really pretty, kind of like grungier, smoky looks. And so I just love this palette. It's one, you're not gonna just do like a 5-minute makeup look. You're gonna have to take a good chunk of time to do your eyeshadow. And that's kind of with Melt palettes in general. Like you don't really want to use them if you're in a rush. So yeah, anyway, this is the palette that I didn't think I would love, but this was the palette that got me onto Melt, and now I have like 6 or 7 palettes from them. And this was my first Melt palette. So yeah. Thank you again, DW, for sending this to me. Next question is a palette that you wish there would be a part 2, or a palette you wish had a part 2. And for me, that would be the ColourPop Mulan palette, because I didn't get it when it was first released, just because I just wasn't into makeup or ColourPop at that time. I had like kind of a break with makeup, like because I was really into it from like 2008 to 2013. I watched all the YouTube videos. I was super into the beauty community, and then I just stopped until after 2013. I stopped until like 2021, and then I got back into it, and I had missed the Mulan palette from ColourPop. And Mulan was one of my favorite Disney movies. I've seen that movie so many times. Definitely one of my favorites. ColourPop has really improved their collab packaging since the Mulan palette, and I think that they could just do a much better job with a new Mulan palette. But yeah, so I wish that ColourPop would have a part 2 of their Mulan palette. Moving on, last question. Have you ever decluttered a palette and regretted it? Yes. I used to have the Urban Decay, Alice in Wonderland, the one with the pop-up in the drawer, and I didn't like the eyeshadows, but the packaging, I wish I still had that. Like I had thrown it away, and I didn't regret it until recently. Like I've been, over the past couple years, I've really regretted it because I threw it out like many years ago. And now I'm regretting it over the last couple years, because I've started to kind of like collect the packaging, the special packaging, and the Disney packaging, or just IPs that I really enjoy. And Alice in Wonderland is really high up there, and I did love the packaging of that palette, you know, because it had this pop-up thing that like you lift it up and there's like an Alice in Wonderland scene in it, and it was just a beautiful palette. I didn't use it for the eyeshadows, so I just decided to just throw it out. And it had, by the time I was throwing it out, it had long been expired, so I wasn't trying to like give it to anyone else. So yeah, I ended up just tossing it, which I really regret that. And then I also regret, I also did the same thing with my original Urban Decay Naked palette, and it was because it was just so old, and I just threw it away thinking like, oh, this is expired, I shouldn't be using it. But I wish I had it for like nostalgia, like collector's reasons, just to not to use it, but just to have it. And same thing with the Urban Decay one, the Alice in Wonderland one. I wouldn't want to use it, I just want to have it, just to sit there, like just to like, I just love looking at eyeshadow palettes. I love displaying them and just having them. So yeah, so there's 2 palettes, and neither of them are because I want to use them. They're just because I wish I just still had them. But yeah, I used my Naked palette to death. I had multiple pans. The mirror had completely like come out more than once. I tried to glue it down, and yeah, it was falling apart, and I just threw it away. But I didn't know at the time that I would be collecting palettes in the future. So, oh well, it is what it is. But yeah, I guess just 2 palettes, and that's not bad in the grand scheme of things, because I have decluttered quite a few palettes. Anyway, those are all of the questions from this tag. So thank you again, DW, for tagging me to do this. This was a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!